Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. We wake up Sunday morning and we have some very interesting news to talk about. Michigan has found their new special teams coordinator. It's going to be Kerry Coombs. And to the Michigan fans who follow this program closely, who follow this sport closely, this is a very familiar name, Dill. This is a lifer in the state of Ohio. And quite frankly, was a guy that kind of considered to be a lifer at Ohio State, too. And he's making the move up to Ann Arbor. And he's going to be Michigan's special teams coordinator in 2026. What to make of this news? That's what I want to get into. I want to know what the first thing that came to my mind is. He is an ace on the recruiting trail, specifically in the state of Ohio. And this lines up with everything Sherrone Moore has done at Michigan. Like the moves to the coaching staff that Sherrone Moore often makes is with recruiting in mind. You want to consistently beat a team like Ohio State, you got to go down into the state of Ohio and win some of those recruiting battles. Kerry Coombs, he's going to be that guy for you, or at least at the very least, he's going to help you get into those recruiting battles and maybe win those recruiting battles more times than Michigan has over the last couple of years. When I say lifer in the state of Ohio, Dale, 40 years of coaching, the high school ranks, at the collegiate ranks, and at the NFL ranks. He's only spent 2 of those years outside of the state of Ohio. That was coaching with the Tennessee Titans a couple of years ago, 2-year stint. Everything else has been in this state. Here's the other thing, and I'll get your opinion in a second. As a Michigan fan, it's weird. It's going to be weird. This picture is weird and at times a little off-putting as well. What I like about this is not only the recruiting implications. Let's just be frank about it. Sherrone Moore's a young head coach. I don't hate Sherrone Moore surrounding himself with veterans who've been in the game, who knows what it looks like.
Well, because
And I
honestly, you look like a lot of his position coaches really, really young too. I mean, it's a young coaching
yeah,
staff for
yeah.
the most part. Like, yeah, you got Wink Martindale and you got Chip Lindsey. From that, it's awfully, awfully young.
Dill, it makes me think about when Michigan brought in Juan Castillo last year, who actually just left Michigan staff. He's going to be coaching the offensive lineup at Syracuse. But that was, to me, at least as an outsider looking in, a really impactful hire. Like that Michigan offensive line in 2024 was just not good. We had question marks about Grant Newsom. Juan Castillo comes in, and I'm not going to give him all the credit for what that Michigan offensive line was. I don't think it hurt. I think he might have been part of the reason that this thing went in the right direction a little bit. Maybe, and here's the other thing, though. I mean, Kerry Coombs can provide other value. He's going to work with the special teams unit. I wouldn't be surprised if he's attending some meetings with the defensive backs. I don't think he's a great defensive coordinator. I know the Ohio State fans don't think so. I think he can coach football. Like there's a reason he's been coaching at this level for the last 30 years, right? I want to get into a little bit more of Kerry Coombs. I'm pretty sure he hates Ryan Day, by the way. I want to talk about it too early, transfer portal targets for Michigan as well. Before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, we appreciate you guys. It's going to be a very exciting next month for this program. I think, Dill, me and you agree, and I think a lot of Michigan fans agree with this too. Michigan did not get all that aggressive on the recruiting trail late. In fact, they let some guys walk because I don't think they wanted to get into a bidding war. What that tells me is that Michigan's prepared to get aggressive in the transfer portal. And I think many of us agree Michigan has some positions that they need to address in the portal if they want to be a college football playoff team, if they want to win a Big Ten
Well,
championship.
and I think Sherrone Moore knows it's time. Like, I don't think they can have another
Yeah,
year where they
yeah.
don't look competitive against the big dogs. Like, I think Sherrone Moore knows year 3 they got to be really good, and he needs some instant impact. Because you're right, there are some.
And Dill, I'll say this: watching that game last night, like that should put a little bit of fire under Sherrone Moore's butt a little bit, right? Like this Ohio State team is not as unbeatable as a lot of people thought they were, as I thought they were after they put belt to bottom against Michigan last week. I guess what I'm trying to say is buckle in. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel because we are going to have a lot to talk about regarding this program over the next couple of weeks and months. And Dill, can I ask you this real quick? Does this feel like the end of the coaching changes that we see from Michigan in the offseason?
No, because I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some changes on the defensive staff, like if Wink Martindale
Where?
leaves or
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
it's hard to know, but I think it'll be the last of the dismissals would be my guess.
I think so too because I think the dismissals would have already probably happened if they were going to happen. Um, I think so too. The only coaching change I can see happening is if Wink Martindale decides to leave to the NFL. And that would be a very interesting conversation because the conversation would be what and how would it impact this Michigan coaching staff, right? All right, I'll focus on Kerry Coombs for a second. What excites you the most about Kerry Coombs coming to Michigan here?
No, to me, it's like, and I don't want to downplay the importance of getting better on special teams, and like he's been around for forever. I think like
Yeah, well, that's a thing, but sorry to cut you off, but he has not spent much time coaching special teams, right? It was only in the last couple of years did he make that pivot. Here's my take on
but
that.
he's coached forever. It's like special teams, I don't think is like this guru position. Like I think
Agreed.
again, like if you just play fundamentally sound special teams and you're not making a ton of mistakes like Michigan was, I
We'll
think
take
you
that all day.
immediately kind of elevate what we're doing in the special teams department. So that's really all I want to see. So I don't want to downplay the importance of that getting better, and it needs to get better because it was dreadful last year. But at the end of the day, seems to all be about recruiting, right? He wants a
Yeah.
guy who can be really competitive in the state of Ohio for the Big
I
Ten.
think recruiting is probably number one. I think experience on the coaching staff is probably I think that matters too. And I give Sherrone Moore credit. Look, I'm not sold on Sherrone Moore. I think the jury's still out going in next year. I do appreciate him understanding this is a pretty dang young staff and it probably could benefit from some guys that have been around the block, especially at this level. I I don't know if specialty. I'm kind of with you. I don't think it's some sort of guru position. Shane Beamer would probably argue with the boys there. Fundamentals, man. Like if Michigan can just be a neutral on special teams, I'd take it because that certainly wasn't what we were last year. If we can just be a slight positive like that, that matters too. And especially when you get into those games where I go look at that game against Ohio State and Indiana. Like when you have the best football teams in the country squaring off, it comes down to the margins, right? And it could come down to just executing on special teams. Hopefully we get that from Kerry Coombs. And Dale, yeah, that's my take, my overall take. I'm sorry I'm rambling. It can't be worse. It can't be worse than what we were trotting out there in 2025. And I'm not just talking about the kicking issues. There's like the punting. It was the punt coverage. It was punt return. It was personnel usage. Getting fooled by a couple of fakes this year. It all can get better. And I know why Sherrone Moore made the change. Dill, there's not. I mean, do you think there are any cons? Like, I don't really see like, oh, why? Unless he's a double agent for Ohio State, like I don't see the cons.
No, in the cons would like again,
Maybe optically the cons, like we're taking a coach that Ohio State got rid of.
well, but
Maybe
we're not like naming him the defensive court. I mean, if
true,
he came
fair,
in as
fair,
like a
fair, fair, fair.
position coach or DC, it might be because you could certainly make that argument. I mean, there have been stints where he's not been the most successful coach in the history of the world, and I
Really, only as a
that's
play caller though.
yeah, so that's probably where you could get into like the cons is like, yes, there have been those moments in his
Yeah,
career where things didn't work out. But again, I think to me, you're hiring him to be the special teams coordinator. But this is again, it's so far driven, it feels like by recruiting that
yeah.
like, yeah, we know he can recruit. He's always been a really good recruiter. That's why Urban Meyer had him on his staff. Urban Meyer only had coaches who are going to be really, really good recruiters for the most part. So to me, yeah, I don't see a ton of cons. I mean, again, if he's
I
like
think
horrible
that's a
special teams,
quality, Dill. I think that's a quality that you see with a lot of the best coaching staffs in the country. Look at Kirby Smart staff. Look at Dan Lanning staff. What I consider some of the best staffs in the country. Quite frankly, look at Ryan Day and Ohio State staff too. They don't hire guys that are they. You have to be a good football coach, right? You will not be on Oregon staff. You will not be on Kirby Smart staff if you don't recruit your tail off, right? I think that Sherrone Moore is trying to take that approach. Like, we want guys that can bring in as good a talent as possible. I had a small transfer portal conversation to get into with some players that have intrigued me. I think I'm going to punt on that episode, but I will ask you this, or punt on that part of the episode. After watching Ohio State lose to Indiana and how Indiana went about doing it, does that impact how you see Michigan's offseason plan? Because look, that's the conversations. We're chasing teams like Ohio State. We're chasing teams like Indiana. If you want to go win Big Ten championships, win national championships, you have to get through those teams first, right? Well,
It
what
makes
was
me think Michigan needs some more athleticism in their interior defensive line. That was probably the one thing that stood out, how athletic and how like disruptive Indiana was from that position. Like obviously Michigan had some edge guys. I don't think they played well in that Ohio State game.
yeah.
But to me, it's like they just need a couple of different types of I feel like everyone in Michigan's defensive
It
line.
felt like Michigan was really one-dimensional in terms of their impact up front. If it wasn't Demo and if it wasn't Jayshon Barham, there just wasn't enough juice along. I mean, go back to when
And
Michigan
you
was
want guys who can stop the run because for the most part, Michigan in the first half did a really good job stopping the run. They just didn't have
about the
guys
pass
who could
rush.
really rush the passer and be disruptive. So that to me, I think that defensive line probably needs a couple of different type of bodies, especially in the
Yeah.
interior.
It was two things to me. One was very similar to you. The storyline there was, in one, I think the world of Indiana's DC, and I think he made Julian Sand look confused for the first time all year. They could get after it from all positions on the defensive line. Like, that's out on the edge with Mikel Kamar, that Daly kid who was the backup, who was the two. I mean, he came and was really disruptive. Tyreek Tucker is an absolute war dog in the middle. They got another kid, I believe, number 97, that could get after it
And
too. But
Dino's really good, really
so
good athlete.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that Michigan this year was, if it wasn't Demo and Jayshon Barham when he made that position change, it wasn't really anybody else who had the opportunity to wreck games. When you go back to look at Michigan teams that were elite, I mean, it was all guys. It was Mason Graham, it was Kenneth Grant, it was Chris Jenkins, it was Demo or Josiah Stewart on the outside. We got to get more. We got to get more there because it starts with impacting the quarterback. The biggest story to me was Julian Same was off his spot all day. The second thing, man, just had a lot of guys that can make plays down the field. Like, it starts with Elijah Surratt, and they didn't have Omar Cooper. They had that other kid come in. Now I'm blanking on his name.
Charlie
That was
Betcher.
yeah.
So
He's another guy that, hey, when you need a play to go close out a game or go win a football game, think about that back shoulder to Elijah Surratt or that just go ball to Becker to ice that game off. Like, you need those guys that can go up and make plays, and I mean, we just didn't have enough of that. We had Andrew Marsh, and that's a lot to put on a freshman, especially when you have a true freshman quarterback. Like, to me, and I'm looking at Michigan's offseason transfer portal plan, it's not like we need 20 guys. It's not like we have to replace this whole roster. In fact, I would argue that there's a decent amount of Michigan that I feel really good about in 2026. Offensive line, running back room. I think Bryce Underwood should take a step in the right direction. Secondary and backer should be pretty damn good. If you fix those two things, that was the two biggest differences I realized with a team like Indiana versus Michigan. So we'll talk about it because I haven't seen a ton of names yet that are like, yep, that's the guy that changes it for Michigan. I do think they'll come, right? Like, there's some buzz around Cam Coleman. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Williams enters the portal. We'll see if Michigan makes moves. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. To the Michigan fans, man, buckle in. We got a lot to talk about. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.